Are you thinking about moving to Oregon and the Corvallis area is high on your list? Well, we've moved over 400 families in the Mid-Willamette Valley, and we can help you too. We reached out to our clients and friends and said, hey, if you're willing to go on camera and tell your Oregon story, we'll honor your time by donating to a local nonprofit, Jackson Street Youth Services. About 15 of our friends responded enthusiastically, so let's hear what these people have to say about their move here and their life in the area. We'll do our best to show you places on the screen when they're mentioned, and there'll be links in the description below. Hey folks, I'm Michael Kreslowski out of Team K Realty in Remax in Corvallis. We help people buy and sell homes in the whole Mid-Willamette Valley area. And today we're joined by our friend and client. I always blend these things together. Friant. This is Heather. So thank you so much for being a part of this project.
Thanks for inviting me.
And Heather's here to talk to us today about her experience moving to the area and what it's been like living here. This is part of the Life in Oregon project that we're doing. So let's kick it off. Tell us a little bit about your Oregon story. See what I did there? Like an origin story?
All right.
This is what it's like, right? Where did you move here from?
I moved here from Urbana, Champaign in Illinois. I was a professor at the University of Illinois, and I moved here for two reasons. One was to become a bee and work at OSU, which I love.
That's right.
As an accounting professor. And the second was to get closer to my family. So I grew up in Southern California.
That's right. Okay. So there's a multifaceted move. The professional piece really justified the specific location.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And turns out I love the Pacific Northwest much better than, I guess, West Coast without the Pacific North part added.
I never really thought about that. But yeah, West Coast does encompass where we are. But really, most people think of West Coast as being like California, maybe the coast of Oregon, Washington, that kind of stuff. But Pacific Northwest really speaks to like Oregon, Washington vibes in this area, right?
Yeah.
Big trees, Sasquatch, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And beaches where you can bring your dog and there's not a ton of people. So love that.
Nice. When did you move here? Was it something like 5 or 6 years ago at this point already?
It was summer of 2019. So yeah, you're pretty accurate. About 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So what were your apprehensions when you were moving here? For example, were you afraid of the weather and what that might be like? Because we've got a reputation. And I like to have people speak to their experience in reality versus reputation. The difference there.
I was a little worried about the rain, and probably somewhat well-founded. It does get a little depressing when you're slugging through the winter time, ready for sun all the time. But two things that were better than I expected was the rain is more like just being in a cloud more than like downpour. So we don't get a lot of downpour, which was nice. And the whole cloud thing and just misty rain is not so bad. And then we do get intermittent days of sunshine, which is nice too. So I think both of those things were pleasant surprises. And I was not familiar with, if you're a true Oregonian, you do not use an umbrella. But I am working hard to be a true Oregonian, and I never use an umbrella. My son says, though, I can never be a true Oregonian because I grew up in Southern California, and true Oregonian Southern Californians, I think, are not their favorite people.
Oh,
that's what my son says anyway.
There is some kind of a rivalry, and your son might be part of the surfing subculture that perpetuates that rivalry because surfing culture is such a big thing in both areas. Yeah. But I do think that once you watch our video on how to de-Californiarize yourself, it's all good. And we are actually planning on making that it's on the list.
Yeah.
But
I can be here for that one too.
Nice.
I'm working hard at it.
There is a joke about if you use an umbrella, people are going to think you're a tourist, right? And no one really cares. I don't feel like people give you a hard time. It's just one of those things that we talk about.
Yeah. No one will give you a hard time.
Yeah. People are friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one shames you for having an umbrella, at least not to your face. What has it been like in the process, or what was it like, rather? What was it like when you were in the process of moving here? Because if I recall correctly, as I rack my brain, we connected with you guys maybe as a resource to help you find a rental first and then go house hunting, right? Was that the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I moved here, the market was super crazy. I think it's maybe not quite as crazy, but maybe getting crazier again. I don't know.
It's more
Anyways.
humane, but it's on an
Yeah.
uptick. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really crazy. And I did not want to have a deadline of when I needed to buy a house. So I came here thinking I did a housing visit and I knew that the market was pretty crazy. So I decided to rent right off the bat, and I didn't mind having to move a second time. Just because I figured that would get me, allow me to really familiarize myself with the area before I buy something. And then also just give me time to not feel, oh my gosh, now I just have to get whatever I can get.
Yeah. And we usually recommend people do just that. And most people don't want to. Most people are like, look, I just don't want to move twice. Forget the rental thing. Let's just do a house buying trip. I think it works better if you do this. If you just find a landing pad, you settle into apartments to rent or a house to rent for a while, and then you have the confidence of being like, oh, yeah, this is definitely where I want to be. I'm not buying a house on a Zoom call, even though we do that a lot now. It's just not as good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And in my case, where I got my rental was a place that I thought I would never want to live. Like when I did my housing tour, and it wasn't you, but another realtor that the university hooked me up with, they gave me a little tour of all the different neighborhoods. And where I'm at, she showed me that neighborhood and I was like, oh, I would never want to live here. This is awful. Mainly because it had part of the area that she showed me had the new sort of cookie cutter homes, but I'm pretty close to that. And then I realized after living in the rental, I really liked that like Bald Hill was there and I could go hiking nearby, and it just really seemed to fit. And then we found the house there. So I would definitely recommend it. I feel like you really don't know a place until you come and experience it as a resident. I think visiting a place, even an extended visit, it's really hard to get a sense of what are the cool parts of the different parts of town, and then being able to find what matches you. And I have a colleague who didn't rent first, and they ended up buying in the cookie cutter houses just because they were new built homes. So they were easy to get into relative to anything else.
I'm sure.
And the wife of this couple, I work with her husband, but she's my best friend. And I can tell she regrets that decision because she would have picked a different place of town. And they did end up looking to move, but the cost of relocating is pretty steep if you haven't been in the house for a while. So
yes. And there's this interesting phenomenon that a lot of people will say, they're like, I want to move to Corvallis and I want a brand new house. And it's a little bit of a mismatch. We have a little bit of new construction here, but just a little bit because it's a slow growth community. And we certainly help people buy and sell new homes when that is truly what they're looking for. But often when people are really hyper-focused on moving to Corvallis, it's because they like the charm of the established neighborhoods. And so there is a mismatch there because we don't have a lot of new construction. What they're really thinking is, I just don't want to have an old house that's got too much maintenance. And that's a goal that's accomplishable. That's a goal that can be accomplished, right?
yeah.
So how did we connect then? Because I'd forgotten that there was some agent through the university that gave you a tour. Like, how did we actually meet?
We met through a rowing club connection somehow. You knew someone on the rowing club and yeah.
Okay.
So it was just hey, we didn't really have a lot of connections, but my boyfriend at the time was a rower. And so he connected with the rowing club people and then was like, do you know of any realtor? And
it was a word of mouth referral. Yeah. I remember now because...
And I think he might... Yeah. Anyways.
Well, I was going to actually just make a stupid joke.
Yeah, make a stupid joke. He's really good at those. They're really stupid.
I remember now because I was looking for a spreadsheet group, rows and columns, and misunderstood what the rowing club was. And that's how that whole thing came. Yeah.
Even as an accountant, I'm going to say that's a dumb joke.
It's terrible. Yeah. It's interesting. We connected long before Noelle and I ever met, actually, because the team has grown a lot in 5 or 6 years. And Noelle, as many of you have experienced, she gives me a run for my money with these kind of fun wordplay jokes. I'm just like, oh, that's what it's like. Okay, I get it now. But she's awesome. We're not making fun of it. All right. So it ended up being a word of mouth referral. Would you mind talking a little bit, just vaguely in general, about the part of town that you bought the first home in and what you like and don't like, or what you like about that part of town primarily, what that experience was like?
Yeah. So the place I bought was near the fairgrounds in Bald Hill. So I mentioned I like that I could walk to Bald Hill. I can walk to, if I wanted to, the Winters Farmers Market. It's been so cold lately. I don't know that I'll be doing that even if I could.
Because that's in the fairgrounds.
Yep. And then I also liked that the buses here are free. And so there was a bus stop pretty close to my house. And like on the weekends, if I wanted to go out downtown, I could take the bus downtown and not worry about having to have a designated driver or doing something unsafe. I also liked that it's very easy to bike to downtown. So there's a biking path. It's not a full biking path, but there's a path I can take around the whole kind of city since it's relatively small. And so I could take that to downtown. I would ride the bikes with my kids to downtown and then eat lunch or whatever. I loved all of that. I ended up buying a second home, as Michael has alluded to, not for a very fun reason, but I had a house fire. And so as I was still waiting for my house to be rebuilt, I bought a second home to live in temporarily. And that one is near the Corvallis High School. And what I love about that is I can walk to school. I can walk to downtown. It's Fred Meyer's, the grocery store, is walking distance. So I feel like I don't even need a car in my current place. And I probably could get away without a car in my, previous place. I'd just have to time things better with the buses and whatnot. But yeah, so I love both locations and yeah, I guess that's it.
There's a lot of bicycle-friendly infrastructure here, and you may remember this. It's literally why I moved here. It's ironic because before getting here, I was in a really bad accident and never really got back into biking. I still miss it, but it's literally why I moved across the country to Corvallis. So hopefully someday I get back into that. That would be fun and nice. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a ridiculous amount of bike shops for the size of this town.
Yeah. And come to think of it, I didn't mention it at the beginning. Maybe I'll splice it in the beginning, but just that, and our viewer listeners know, this is like a podcast style video, right? It's just two people talking. But if you're listening to this while you're brushing your teeth or making dinner, anytime that we mention things, I will do my best to show them on the screen. As you mentioned, parts of town, the high school, the fairgrounds, bike shops, I'll be showing things because we've got videos like Bike Vallis that I have an excerpt from that will be on the screen as we say that.
All right.
So there will be a visual component just so that you're aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. What was it like working with myself and my team, come to think of it, since we have gotten to help you a couple of times now? Do you mind talking about that experience for people who are just watching our YouTube videos and wonder if we're actually legitimately any good at any of it?
I think what I appreciated the most is what your little bumble at the beginning of the video where you were like, friend, client, I don't know what term you used, but it is, when I had the house fire, I had 3 dogs at the time, but Michael was like quick on the horn to contact all of his clients, friends, family. I don't know what we all are.
It does kind of all blend together.
His realtor related family to see if anyone had space for dogs to stay at their house and to help me out with the whole dog thing. And so, like, I really just felt like that was quite special. Michael also puts on regular, like, pie events, gingerbread house events. I think, we did archery one time, which my daughter loved.
Yeah.
So I like that it's more of someone you feel like you can trust and have a relationship than one and done. Here's my commission and good luck. Things. I feel like if I had any issues, I could come to Michael and he's a fair guy and would work with me.
I appreciate that. And what we like to think when we talk in the office is that what we're going for is building a community around a business. And you saying that is telling me that we're doing a decent job. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think you are.
What are some of your favorite things about the area that people should get highlighted to them and emphasized? You talked a little bit about the bikeability. What are some other aspects of the community and the area that you just think are really special?
I think it's, especially coming from Southern California, it's amazing how much beautiful open space and landscape we have to do fun outdoor activities. I think the amount of rain and water we get from here keeps everything lush and beautiful. Yep. In a way that I didn't have in Southern California. Also, you can pretty much do anything with such a short trip. Like if I want to go skiing, I can go skiing, drive up for the day or stay for a couple of days. Bend's not super far. The coast is 45 minutes. Michael mentioned my son's big into surfing. He actually works at a surf shop on the coast. And so he drives back and forth on the weekends and over the summer to go surfing. I love that the beaches are accessible and open, and I can take my dog, and there's tons of space. Like I can sit somewhere and I'm not like sardined up next to someone like the beaches in Southern California.
And can I chime in? I hate to interrupt you. When you're mentioning, you're drawing a contrast between, I think, California and Oregon. And part of what's going unsaid there is that the beaches are public in Oregon. You can't just actually own beach privately. People can just go on them, plain and simple. I think that's part of what you're getting at there.
Yeah. And and even just the Southern California beaches that are open to the public just tend to be super busy. And like just even parking's a big pain in the butt. And then getting down to the beach and finding just a space, you're like this close to people you don't know.
Yeah.
And here, parking's super easy at the coast. You can, like I said, take my dog, let my dog off leash. There's lots of dogs running around there. And so it's just a way more laid back, cool vibe to me than the hustle and bustle of the Southern California beaches.
I'm glad it's been a really good fit in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah.
We like to think that there's so much that's easily accessible for just what we call Oregon outings on this channel. And the coast is one of the favorite ones. Ray and I will just be like, on a weekends, usually not on a weekday, we'll be like, want to just go get clam chowder? Yeah, we just go drive to Newport. There's no pre-planning involved. You hop on Highway 34 or whatever it is. You don't make a single turn. You're in Newport. Like in an hour or less, depending on what part of Corvallis you're in.
Yep.
So there's a lot of fun stuff that's really accessible. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, and lots of cool like hiking and waterfalls super nearby. Like you can really just do anything you like.
What are some of the hikes and waterfalls that you've enjoyed, if you know the name?
I don't know is it Alicia Falls? I don't know. There's one that there's like there's 7 waterfalls that you could go to. I don't know. I don't know the names, but there's a lot that are, I know, within a relatively short drive that I've been to. Of course, like Bend and skiing at Mount Bachelor was great. And then even just hiking to the top of Bald Hill is a pretty phenomenal view, and you don't have to leave town for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what I can't name a bunch of stuff, but I know if you like to hike, this is the place to be. In fact, I was looking for someone to date on the apps, and a large majority were like, hey, let's go on a hike for the first date. And then
that's the quintessential Oregon date.
And then I sent something to my son, and I was like, do you think this is okay? Safe? And he says, anywhere else, no. But in Oregon, yeah, it's expected.
My mind went there as you were saying that. I was like, wait, let's think about this. The standard first date is let's go out into the woods and get to know each other. Yeah, that just red flags everywhere. But here, pretty normal. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You bring your dog. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. Is I brought my dog. I figured anything tries to happen. My dog's pretty scary.
Always Google
I'm only scary when he needs to be, not always scary.
Always Google people before you randomly go out into the woods with them. Okay. I feel like there's a disclaimer needed there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do so at your own.
The hiking factor is awesome around here. You've got, and we made a video called Hike Vallis that people will be seeing a clip from as you're talking about some of these spots. And Bald Hill's a great example of that. You've got instant access to trailheads right around town. And Bald Hill, we often point people there on reconnaissance trips. When people say, hey, we're watching your YouTube videos, we're going to visit on this long weekend. You know, what are some things we should check out? Bald Hill is usually one of them because there's flat paved areas. And if you want to have more of a uphill and go around the hill hike, you can. Just don't do that in the middle of mud season, especially if you have no sense of direction. But it's a great spot to go. You can bring a picnic and go under that old framed barn structure building. It's a good iconic little spot in Corvallis. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing some of those things. See, this is a great example of the abundance mentality as opposed to a scarcity mentality that some people might have. Because we're talking about how, the beach in California is just so crazy busy and stuff. We're not worried about that here. No one's gatekeeping their favorite things. There's plenty of nature to go around. So I appreciate you sharing all this freely. Yes.
And the other thing that's great about here is the organic farms.
Yes.
So I have had a farm share at Rainshine Farm, and they are awesome. And I also love that the same local feel vibe. Like I know Rachel the farmer, and I see her at the farmer's market sometimes. And I love that they do a winter share, and their winter share has greens every week, which I love. And then we do have the farmer's market in the winter, which is at the fairgrounds. So you can go get organic veggies any time of the year. And then the summertime, farmer's market downtown is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also awesome.
So tell me a little bit more about that, because I'm familiar with the concept of CSA boxes. What does farm share really consist of?
So a lot of them you just get whatever vegetables they have for that week. One thing I like about the Rainshine is they adjusted it. So you pay in advance for the whole season so that they know how much to grow, and they know that they'll be able to sell it all. So it helps the farmer. But Rainshine has done where they will give you options for each week. So you don't have to like just take what they give you. A lot of them do that where they're just like, here's what you're getting this week, which my friend actually loves because for her that works really well because now I figure out how to make stuff with this new thing that I might not have tried.
Yes.
That's not really my vibe because I always want my greens.
Yeah.
So I like that I can always make sure I have fresh greens. They're just so much better than grocery bought stuff.
That's really cool. So that is different than what I think of as the CSA box. And you do get some choice there. That's really fun. I'm having a fun flashback to when Ray and I were in Alaska doing a CSA box, and we got this artichoke head we couldn't figure out how to cook. So it is neat that you've got a choice with Rainshine.
Yeah.
So what are some things that aren't just like your favorites, but things that you would say to someone doing a reconnaissance trip, come to think of it? Oh, if you're here for a weekend or a week, whatever the case may be, you should go check out some of these things, and that'll give you a good feel for the area.
Okay. Downtown, popular places to go. It depends on the season, obviously.
Sure.
But Common Fields is pretty popular when they have music.
That's the food truck place.
Yeah, the food truck place. So they have good beer and live music when they have it. Mm-hmm. And their music's good even when it's not live. And then definitely some of the local wineries, and they also often have music night or trivia night or fun stuff like that. And we have really good Pinot Noir in particular, I think, in the Valley, but just really good wine. So checking out the wineries. I went to McMinnville with my girlfriend. We did a double date thing for her birthday, and there's some great food in McMinnville, and we stayed at the Atticus Hotel, which is the historic, iconic place. So that was super fun. And that was in the winter. It was fun. I haven't been in the summer, but I know that there's a lot of good biking and even more stuff to do in the summertime. I'm blanking on the farm that has the restaurant in the summer.
Gathering Together Farms.
Yeah, Gathering Together Farms. Their restaurant is amazing. I've eaten both for dinner, which is hard to get a reservation. So you'd have to plan that a little in advance, but they do let you do it online. But if you were coming in the summer, or at least in the season that they're open, I would definitely suggest dinner there.
Yeah.
If you can't get a dinner reservation, lunch is just walk up, and it's really nice. They have some outdoor spots, right? The farm, which is beautiful. And you can walk around the farm, and they have the horse you can pet.
I've never seen the horse.
Yeah, we walked around the farm and there's a horse there that's really nice. I think her name's Molly, maybe? I don't know.
How have I missed Molly?
I don't know. You've lived here way longer than me.
Gathering Together Farms is my favorite restaurant of all time. It's just such a fun little farm stand restaurant.
Yeah.
And you can't get more farm to table than literally having the restaurant on the farm. I mean, that place is wonderful.
And it's nice that in the summer they have a little farm store, like he said, that you can get organic, nice vegetables when they're open, but it's a summertime, early fall thing.
Awesome.
And one other thing I love is there's an amazing massage therapist in town. Her name's Becky, and it's certifiably serene. And I do love that with her, she's not only amazing massage therapist, but it's definitely that whole like local feel. Like I can So my girlfriend's birthday, I wanted to get her a massage, and Becky's awesome. So she books up super quick. And so I was like, oh, I want to give my girlfriend a massage for her birthday. And then I was like, so can you put her on the wait list and schedule her for the next weekend time you have? And then she was like, oh, if it's a birthday thing, I'll stay late and do it this Sunday. So she actually last Sunday, the holiday weekend, she did a 5:30 massage, which she normally doesn't do, but she did it for me because she knows me as her client. And it was my friend's birthday and I procrastinated until the last minute. So I love that there's so many things like that in town here where that small feeling and you get to do business with people you like and that you feel like they're more a friend than just a
absolutely
commercial transaction.
I mean, this is a city that to me really just feels like a big town. It's got tons of support for local business and entrepreneurship. And there's the TV show Portlandia that I'm sure everyone's seen where they exaggerate what that's. And I feel like here, there's just so much support for it because it's what's here. It's not in a pretentious way. People aren't like, oh, I only buy chickens that are grown within 500 yards of my house. Like that's not the vibe. It's just that we're surrounded by farms. There's lots of fresh and local produce and food, and it's amazing and tasty because it's fresh and local. And there's just tons of little local businesses and people enjoy supporting them. It's not in the pretentious way that they made fun of on the TV show. It's just very natural and all pun intended, or just very organic to do here. Yeah. So that's a great example of that. And I appreciate you giving her a shout out. That's wonderful. Yeah. Do you have an impression that you can share just in a general sense about what the cost of living is like here? And I'm not trying to have you say, oh, my electric bill is this amount. Just in general, what things maybe cost a little bit more here than other places you've lived? What things are about the same or less? What's the vibe in that regard?
I don't know that I have great benchmarks. Southern California is super expensive. Okay. Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, I think is one of the cheapest places to live. Okay. I have lived in Madison, Wisconsin. I would say maybe it's most similar to Madison. Not as many great places to eat. There's a handful, but Madison had amazing food.
It's a lot bigger, right?
But yeah, Madison's the capital of Wisconsin and the big university
and the
there.
University, yeah.
So yes, very different.
Okay.
But I would say more expensive as far as housing than I would have expected based on like just looking at the inventory.
Sure.
But having the frame of Southern California, I'm like, that's not as bad as it could be. And then I would say the cost of living for just going out, food, that kind of stuff, it's pretty reasonable. But that I would say the one thing was the housing seemed, I remember when I first got here and looked at a house, I was like, seriously, this is what I get for this amount of money? There is a bit of that. But it's a very cool town.
And that's going to fit with the responses that we're getting from other people as part of this interview series. Most of the time, people are saying, the housing's a little bit more than I would have thought. Other stuff seems on par. And it depends on your frame of reference and where you're coming from. Yeah. California, I would assume, in general, is more expensive, but not all areas. So yeah, that answers the question perfectly. I'm trying not to lead the witness as I say these things, but I'm not a trained interviewer. So if you watch all like 10 or 15 or 20 of these or whatever, you're going to see me almost answer questions while I'm asking them and then being like, but tell me what you think. So I'm doing a slightly better job on this one.
And just to make it balanced, that there are two things that this town lacks.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of, like, for all the organic, amazing, like, materials to have awesome restaurants, I feel like we should have more. We have a handful of good ones, but I feel like we could have more. And I would say of that handful of nicer restaurants, not all of them are super consistent.
Okay.
So that's my impression of the restaurant game. And then the other thing we are lacking is we have about 15 bike shops, right? But we have like TJ Maxx, Ross, and one other women's clothing store downtown that's too expensive for my taste. So I have to drive to Eugene or Salem to get good shopping for clothes, which actually for me just means I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on stuff I don't need. But there's a J. Crew factory in Eugene, which is great. There's a Nordstrom Rack in Eugene, Pottery Barn, I think. So there's some good stuff.
Heather, I mentioned that because I don't think that really has come up before in these conversations. We've got some local shopping. We've got a lot of local businesses. But really, if you want to go to mainstream commercial stuff, you're going to other communities, right? No doubt. Like Albany's got small malls. Albany's got a Costco, a Walmart. Eugene and Salem have actual big malls.
Yeah.
Valley River Center, whatever the Salem one's called off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Portland. Just for example, Ray's birthday, my wife's birthday is coming up next week, I think, as we record this. And I was like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she's, I want to go shopping in Portland.
We do have an IKEA in Portland, which came in very handy.
I love IKEA. I disproportionately so for someone
I know,
in my point of life.
I could go on a first date in IKEA. That's how much I love IKEA. And it's not that far of a drive.
I've thought about going to IKEA for a writing retreat to try to actually finish the draft of my first book. I was like, wait a minute, there's a cafeteria. I can put headphones on, just sit up there, have food, boom, yeah.
Or you could just sit in the desk purchasing area, try out the different desks.
Take a nap in the couch or something. Anyway.
Yeah. So I would say the shopping and just like good restaurants. And there's obviously like great restaurants. I mean, Portland has like James Beard Award winners and Michelin rated and McMinnville, where we went, was a runner up for the James Beard Award. So we have great food nearby, but right here in Corvallis, I feel like with all of the amazing organic farms nearby and great.
You'd expect even more restaurants. Yeah. It's good to know. And I want your opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
James Beard, I know Michelin star, but what is James Beard actually?
I just know it's
some food.
It means it's great food.
Okay. I'll look
That's how educated I am on. I'm just like, it means it's good.
I'm listening to an audiobook about Europe and finally understand the Michelin star thing. It literally was the Michelin tire company.
I know.
Wanting to sell more tires, so they encourage people to go on driving trips to these restaurants. And that's how Michelin star restaurants came to be.
Yeah.
Cool.
But they did a really good job rating them.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And I really value the authentic feedback because I don't want this YouTube channel to just be me as a talking head over and over being like, I love living. Here's why. There's always balance, and paradise is subjective, and we want people making informed decisions and just having the big picture. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Was there ever a moment where you thought to yourself, okay, this really feels like home. I'm digging this. I want to settle in and stay for a long time.
Yeah, I don't have tenure yet. And it was actually very recently I was like reflecting upon, because I've built a really nice community of friends. Like I told you, my best friend Chelsea and I are doing rowing it's the Salem Rowing Club, but it's Independence, which is a little bit closer than Salem. And so that's super fun. Like her and her husband and me and my boyfriend get together and go out a lot. We went to McMinnville. We just have so much fun. This weekend, I'm babysitting my other best friend daughter. And so it's like, I was thinking, wow, I just really love my life here. I'm going to be very sad if I don't get tenure. And until recently, I'd been like, if I get tenure or not, no big deal. I can, there's all kinds of things I can do if I don't get tenure. But I realized the other day, and it was a little bit sad because I didn't want to be too attached to here since I don't have tenure yet. But yeah, yes. I did have the realization that I really like my life here and I'd be sad if I had to move.
Gotcha. I'm glad to hear the good part of that. And we're rooting for you to get tenure, of course. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about the university, come to think of it?
I don't know. What do you want to know?
Oregon State University is, of course...
it's a great university here in Oregon. It's one of, I would say, U of O now has the Big Ten associated with it. And
that's a sports thing, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it also sports affects a lot with universities in terms of money and whatnot. But I would say so when I was at University of Illinois, the department I was in, accounting department, I was one of maybe 40 FTE, which is huge, like 40 full-time equivalent professors and instructors. And so it was this massive department. The university here for accounting and in the College of Business is a much smaller field, which I love. So all of the accounting students take my class. So I know every single student that graduates.
That's really cool.
It's a close-knit feeling. We have, I think, and I may be wrong, but we're definitely like 10 or less in terms of professors in our department. I don't want to say an actual number because I might be wrong. I've forgotten someone. But so we have a small group of tenure track and some really great long-term instructors in our department, but it's just has that family feel to it. And I think for the students too that get involved in the community, because we have our program is a little over maybe around 120 students, but that's 3 sections of 40 student class kind of ish. The students can all get to know each other pretty well, and there's a good sense of community. We also have some really great programs. I know engineering is one of the top engineering programs in the country, I think. And the very cool thing about OSU is that it is open access. So you don't have to apply to a program. You just have to say, I want to be in this program. Now, sometimes students decide they want to be in the engineering program, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in this program. So they self-select out. But there is no when I was at Illinois, everyone had to apply, have a certain GPA to get into different programs. Some of the programs were super competitive. And so here, I really love that it's open access. You can just say, this is the major that I want to do. And if you can do the work, you get that degree. And you don't have to apply and meet some crazy competitive threshold to get in. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was even a thing, actually. Apparently where I went to was open access as well. I'm unaware of the comparison otherwise until today.
Yeah. So I really like that about the university, that it's very inclusive, values diversity, and is not, in order to be successful, you need to meet this mold. I had a previous student who was autistic and got a job at one of the big 4 CPA firms. So I really feel like there's a lot of value on inclusivity and diversity.
This is super, by the way. So, in wrapping up, out of curiosity, if there is anything that you would do different or advise other people to do in their Oregon journey, anything come to mind that you would do differently or recommend?
No, I think I'm pretty happy with the way things have gone. I would just again reiterate that I'm really happy I rented a place before I bought. It made the whole buying process much more relaxed. And you can even probably rent a furnished place or keep most of your stuff in storage so that you don't have to do a big unpack and then repack and then move. But I think it was definitely worth getting to know the neighborhoods in town and figuring out where I fit the best and what was the best fit for my lifestyle before rushing into something.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of doing just that, so I appreciate you emphasizing that as the finishing nail in carpentry terms, right? And I'm not saying this to be self-aggrandizing, but I do recall that we had conversations, which is a good part of that. Have communication with us, even about the rental side of things. We're not going to pretend to be leasing agents. That's not our role here. But I do remember giving you advice about, that rental you're considering might not really be one that meets your needs. And I felt good helping make sure that you had a good fit in that stage of the process as well.
Yes.
That for PC wording. Okay.
I did appreciate your advice. So definitely check in with Michael if you're going to rent, because he has good advice.
We're not going to oversell our abilities in that regard, but we're happy to give advice. Yeah. We want you to have a good experience when you land here, even if you're not buying a house. That's not the point. So thank you for emphasizing that part of this process. Heather, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being a part of this project. Folks, if you're watching these videos, do all the normal YouTube stuff, right? Hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of them. These are all organized into playlists, and don't miss things like narrated driving tours of towns on the channel, all that good stuff. And if we can be a resource for you, contact info's at the end of this and probably in the description below. Just reach out. We're never too busy for you. So thanks so much. And as we say, bye for now.
Bye for now.